There's something in your kitchen right now that's damaging your arteries, inflaming your body, and accelerating the aging of every single cell you have. It's not sugar, it's not salt, it's not red meat. It's something you probably used to cook with today. Something you bought thinking it was healthy. Something that's been sold for decades with labels saying light, low cholesterol, and heart healthy. I'm talking about refined vegetable oils. And if you're over 60, what I'm about to explain affects you twice as much. Because at that age, your body no longer has the same ability to neutralize the damage these oils create on the inside. But stay until the end, because I'm not just going to tell you what to stop using. I'm going to give you 4 concrete, accessible alternatives with real evidence that you can start using as early as tomorrow. My name is Aldahi. I'm a physician. And there's a conversation I have almost every week in my practice that genuinely pains me. A patient walks in. High cholesterol, chronic inflammation, may be already showing early cardiovascular issues. I ask what they eat. They tell me they're very careful with their diet, that they gave up butter years ago, that they cook with sunflower or canola oil because someone told them it was the healthiest option. And that's the problem. Nobody ever told them the truth about those oils. Nobody told them that what they thought was protecting them may have been contributing to the damage all along. Today I'm going to explain exactly why, without unnecessary alarm, with evidence, and with real solutions you can apply today. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and let me know, what oil do you normally cook with? I genuinely want to know. I want you to imagine something first. Think of your cells as engines. Small engines that need clean fuel to run well. When the fuel is high quality, the engine runs smoothly, produces energy efficiently, and generates very little waste. But when the fuel is contaminated, when it burns badly and leaves residue, the engine starts coating its own walls, clogging its passages, wearing out its gears. At first, you feel nothing. But over the years, the engine starts to fail. It overheats. It wears out faster. That is exactly what refined vegetable oils do inside your body. They look clean on the outside, but internally they generate a type of silent damage called oxidative stress. And that oxidative stress is at the root of chronic inflammation, accelerated aging, and many of the diseases that hit people hardest after age 60. Let's start at the beginning. What exactly are refined vegetable oils? I'm talking about sunflower oil, canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil. The ones you find in any supermarket in clear plastic bottles, often with green labels and phrases like rich in omega-6 or cholesterol-free. The problem isn't that they come from plants. The problem is how they're made. To extract oil from a sunflower seed or a corn kernel, you can't just press it like an olive. You need industrial solvents, extreme heat, deodorization, and refining processes that bring the oil to temperatures of up to 480 degrees during production. What happens when you heat a polyunsaturated fat to those temperatures? It oxidizes. It degrades. It produces compounds called aldehydes and free radicals that in laboratory studies have shown toxic effects on cells. And that's before you use it to cook, before you put it in a pan and heat it all over again. Imagine buying an oil that arrives at your kitchen already partially oxidized. Then you heat it to 350 degree Celsius to fry something. That double oxidation process produces an enormous load of harmful compounds that your body has to neutralize using its antioxidant reserves. If you're young and healthy, your body can handle that with reasonable efficiency. But if you're over 60, if you already have chronic inflammation, if your natural antioxidant system has declined with age, that damage accumulates far faster than your body can repair it. There's another problem just as serious that almost nobody talks about. Refined vegetable oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. That in itself isn't bad. Omega-6 is an essential nutrient your body needs. The problem is the ratio. Your body needs a balanced ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Historically, over thousands of years of human evolution, that ratio was roughly 4 to 1. What's the ratio in the modern Western diet? dominated by these vegetable oils, between 15 to 1 and 20 to 1. Some studies report up to 25 to 1 in people who eat a lot of processed and fried food. Why does that matter? Because omega-6 in excess, in that severely unbalanced proportion, promotes the production of pro-inflammatory molecules in your body. And chronic low-grade inflammation is the soil where cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, cognitive decline, and several types of cancer take root. Omega-6 isn't the villain. The imbalance is. And we're creating that imbalance ourselves every time we fry with sunflower oil or dress a salad with canola. I had a patient a few months ago. His name is Don Manuel, 64 years old, retired, very disciplined about his health. He didn't smoke, he walked 3 times a week, he watched his sugar because of prediabetes, but he had systemic inflammation that didn't match his habits at all. When we reviewed his kitchen together, we found the answer. He cooked everything in sunflower oil. He bought the large bottle because it was more economical. He used it daily, and sometimes reheated the same oil 2 or 3 times. I asked him to make one single change for 60 days. Switch the oil, just that. The results in his inflammatory markers at the 2-month mark surprised both of us. I'm not saying everyone will respond the same way, but the principle is powerful. Before I give you the alternatives, let me tell you exactly which oils are most concerning, so you can identify them in your kitchen today. First, refined sunflower oil, one of the most widely consumed oils worldwide. High in omega-6, very unstable when heated, and produces large amounts of aldehydes at frying temperatures. If you have this in your kitchen and use it to fry, this is the first one to replace. Second, canola oil. This one is the most deceptive because for years it was marketed as the healthiest oil available. Low in saturated fat, with some omega-3, seemingly perfect. The problem is its manufacturing process. Canola requires intensive industrial processing, including high-temperature deodorization, a process that can produce small amounts of trans fats even when they're not listed on the label, because regulations allow minimal quantities without disclosure. Third, corn oil and soybean oil, extremely high in omega-6, heavily processed and widely used in packaged food and restaurants without the consumer ever knowing. If you eat out frequently, you're almost certainly consuming one of these two. If you've made it this far, you already have information that most people never receive. But now comes the most important part, the 4 real alternatives. Don't go anywhere. Alternative number 1, extra virgin olive oil. This is the most science-backed option. Decades of research, thousands of studies. Extra virgin olive oil is the central fat of the Mediterranean diet, the dietary pattern with the strongest evidence of cardiovascular benefit in existence. Why is it different from refined vegetable oils? First, because it's obtained by cold pressing. No extreme heat, no industrial solvents. It arrives at your kitchen essentially unoxidized. Second, because it's rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, especially oleic acid, which is far more heat stable than the polyunsaturated fats in sunflower or canola oil. Third, because it contains oleocanthal, an anti-inflammatory compound that in lab studies has shown effects similar to ibuprofen at the cellular level. Not in pill doses, but in consistent daily use, that cumulative anti-inflammatory activity is meaningful. How to use it: for sautéing over medium heat, for salad dressings, for cooking vegetables. It can also be used for occasional frying if you stay below 350 degree, though that's not its ideal use. Extra virgin olive oil can handle up to about 375 degree before degrading significantly. One important detail, look for extra virgin on the label, not just olive oil, not light olive oil, not olive oil blend. Extra virgin. That designation guarantees cold processing and intact bioactive compounds. Alternative number 2, virgin coconut oil. This one generates more debate, and I want to be honest with you about that. Coconut oil is high in saturated fat, about 90%. For decades, that was automatically considered harmful. Today, the evidence is more nuanced. Not all saturated fats are the same. The saturated fats in coconut oil are primarily medium-chain triglycerides, especially lauric acid, which the body metabolizes differently from the saturated fats found in animal products. What's in its favor? It's extremely stable under heat. It can reach 400 degrees Celsius without oxidizing significantly, making it far safer for high-temperature cooking than any refined vegetable oil. In its virgin form, it also retains antioxidant and antimicrobial compounds that refined coconut oil doesn't have. When to use it? For high-heat cooking, baking, and sautéing. 1 to 2 tablespoons per day is a reasonable amount for most people. Who should be cautious? People with very high LDL cholesterol or elevated cardiovascular risk should consult their doctor before using it regularly. The evidence on its effect on LDL is mixed, and the scientific debate is still open. Alternative number 3, clarified butter or ghee. This is the one that surprises my patients over 60 the most, because for decades they were told that butter was the #1 enemy of the heart. The story is more complex. The campaign against butter and in favor of margarines and vegetable oils in the 1970s and 80s was driven partly by food industry interests, not purely by scientific evidence. And today we know that the trans fats in the margarines that replaced butter caused far more cardiovascular damage than the butter they were meant to substitute. Ghee, clarified butter with the milk solids and water removed, has several advantages. First, it has an exceptionally high smoke point, around 480 degrees Celsius, making it very stable for high-temperature cooking. Second, it's rich in butyric acid, a short-chain fatty acid that nourishes intestinal cells and has anti-inflammatory properties. Third, if it comes from grass-fed cows, it contains fat-soluble vitamins like K2, critical for cardiovascular and bone health, especially after 60. How to use it? In small amounts for sautéing, for flavor, for cooking eggs, for finishing meats or roasted vegetables. A teaspoon to a tablespoon per preparation is enough. Who should be cautious? People with lactose intolerance generally tolerate it well because the milk solids have been removed. Those with a true milk protein allergy should check with their doctor first. Alternative number 4, lard. Yes, lard. The fat that was removed from kitchens about 50 years ago when the food industry convinced us it was dangerous and that vegetable oils were the healthier choice. It turned out to be exactly the opposite. Lard has a surprisingly balanced fatty acid composition. About 40% of its fats are monounsaturated, the same type of healthy fat found in olive oil. About 11% are polyunsaturated. The rest are stable saturated fats. In practical terms, lard is far more heat stable than any refined vegetable oil. Its smoke point is between 360 and 410 degrees Celsius. That makes it excellent for frying, roasting, and slow-cooked dishes where you need a fat that handles high temperatures without breaking down. Here's the fact very few people know. Lard from pigs raised outdoors with access to sunlight is a natural source of vitamin D, one of the most deficient nutrients in people over 60, and one of the most important for immunity, bone health, and insulin sensitivity. Pigs that spend time in sunlight synthesize vitamin D in their skin, which is stored in their fat. This does not occur with industrial lard from pigs raised indoors without natural light. One critical distinction: traditional lard, obtained by rendering pig fat at home or purchased from a trusted butcher, minimally processed, is what I'm describing. Hydrogenated vegetable shortening, also sometimes called lard on packaging but made from hydrogenated vegetable oils, is the exact opposite. It's full of trans fats and is one of the most harmful products available. Read the label. If it says hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, don't buy it. How to use traditional lard for occasional frying, roasting, and hearty slow-cooked dishes. 1 to 2 tablespoons per preparation. Not every day, not in large quantities, but without the irrational fear that was built around it for decades. Think about it this way. Generations before us cooked with lard and butter every single day, and they didn't have the rates of cardiovascular disease we see today. Those rates spiked when we replaced traditional fats with refined vegetable oils and margarine. That's not a coincidence. That's a consequence. Now, the mistake I promised at the beginning. the one that changes everything. The most common mistake people make when trying to improve their cooking fats: buying the right fat and using it the wrong way. What I see repeatedly: the person switches to extra virgin olive oil. Great, but then they fry with it at maximum heat, store it in a clear glass bottle on the windowsill, or buy a large quantity and leave it open for months. Extra virgin olive oil, like any quality fat, oxidizes with light, heat, and oxygen. If stored poorly or overheated, it can degrade to levels similar to the oils you're trying to replace. 3 rules for storing any quality fat. Darkness. Store it in a dark glass bottle or inside a closed cabinet, away from direct light. Temperature. Away from the stove and oven. A cool spot in the kitchen. Olive oil can even go in the refrigerator if you buy in bulk. Time. Once opened, extra virgin olive oil should ideally be used within 30 to 45 days. Don't buy a large container if it takes you 6 months to finish it. And the second mistake, which applies to any fat: reusing cooking oil. Every time you heat a fat, let it cool and heat it again, the level of oxidized compounds multiplies. Oil reused 3 times can contain levels of aldehydes that no body should consume on a regular basis. Before I close, I need to be clear. Changing your cooking fats is an important step, but it's only one piece of a larger picture. It is not a magic solution or a cure for anything. If you have diagnosed cardiovascular disease, diabetes under treatment, very high cholesterol, or any serious chronic condition, speak with your doctor before making significant dietary changes. Your specific situation may require personalized guidance. What I've shared today is general information based on available evidence. The science on fats and health continues to evolve. What is well established is that reducing highly processed vegetable oils and replacing them with minimally processed fats is a change that the weight of current evidence supports. If you could do just one thing this week, let it be this. Go to your kitchen, open the cabinet, look at what fats you have. If you find refined sunflower, canola, or corn oil, don't throw them away if they're already open. Use them up for things that don't need heat. But don't buy more when they run out. Instead, next time you go to the store, look for an extra virgin olive oil in a dark bottle. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to say extra virgin on the label. And if you have access to traditional lard from a trusted butcher, you already have a great option for high heat cooking without worry. Your body after 60 doesn't have the same margin for error it had at 30. But it's also not a broken machine with no room for improvement. Every right change you make today reduces tomorrow's inflammatory load. And that reduced load, accumulated week by week and month by month, is the difference between aging with energy or aging with disease. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent in the small decisions. If this video opened your eyes, give it a like. It helps more people find it. Share it with someone over 60 you care about. Sometimes the right information arrives at exactly the right moment and changes the course of a life. Subscribe if you haven't already. Every week we publish content like this, with evidence, without unnecessary drama, and without trying to sell you anything. Leave the word oil in the comments if you made it this far and you're committing to checking your kitchen this week. One last question. What fat or oil are you cooking with right now? Write it below. I want to read every single one. See you in the next video. Take good care of yourself. And remember, your health is your best investment.